Okay, so Sam, tonight we're gonna do a warm-up.
Yeah.
I didn't really think of what, but I was thinking we could do just like horseshoe or actually we don't even have a goalie.
I don't know.
We still do horseshoe.
Yeah,
Horseshoe or Jordan Belfort.
Either one. We normally do that one. So
Yeah, we could do Jordan Belfort out the other side.
Horse bathing.
we could do
We always
that.
did it on the same side.
Oh, that's a good idea. And then it says center ice free.
Yep.
So we'll see. Hopefully it's good. Also, if it's not good, going.
Yeah. Do you have my Hi. Do you have my cell phone?
On top of the car?
Yeah, she's gotta go back.
It's a later problem. We can't now. Everything else later. We can't come first.
My name's Tia. I play center on the team. I play for the Greater Victoria Ringette Association. I also coach the team, and I've been playing ringette for, I think, 12 years now.
My name is Sam. I've been playing ringette since I was 10 years old, so that's 15 years this year. And I moved to Victoria 2 years ago, and I've been playing with GVRA ever since, and I am now one of the assistant coaches on the team, and I've played defense my whole life. Technically right now I coach this team because Tia says I talk too much to not have a formal role. But like growing up I always like just loved the sport and wanted to give back. So I started junior coaching when I was 15, and so I've been involved in like governance boards in ringette like across Alberta and BC since I was 21.
My name's Yvonne. I've been playing ringette since I was 8 years old. My team is the Victoria Ringette Association, and I'm a UVic student. So ringette started in the 1960s in Ontario because a gym teacher noticed that there were only boys hockey teams and the girls weren't able to play boys hockey, so he created a sport for girls on ice, and that was ringette. And since then it's evolved. Now it's inclusive of all genders, but historically it's been a female sport, yeah.
The concept of ringette is very, very similar to hockey. Same like concept with 5 people on the ice. Purpose of the game is still to score, but a couple things are different.
So typically I compare it to hockey, but they are very different sports. Main differences are, first of all, you have to pass over the blue lines, so that helps kind of keep like possession sort of moving, rather than just letting you carry the ring across the ice. And with ringette, rather than having a stick with a blade, you just have a straight stick. So it almost looks like you've cut off the blade. And then you have a ring, and it's like a rubber circle that rather than like hitting it like you would with a stick and a hockey puck, you're actually sticking your stick into the ring and carrying it that way. And then I guess like passing and receiving, you would, pass it off of your stick, and then your teammate would have to, we call it stabbing the ring, where you receive it by kind of like sticking the stick into the ring.
Because you have a straight stick and a ring instead of the stick and puck, you have so much more control over the ring, which I think just leads it to be a much faster game. So both of those things really just like increase the like collaboration and the speed.
So we also have ringette lines, which kind of sit at the top of the 2 circles near the net. Only 3 players from each team are allowed to pass that ringette line. So you'll typically have like a 3-on-3 situation when you're playing in the offensive end. We have a 30-second shot clock as well. And to reset that shot clock, either possession has to change, the other team has to engage with the ring, or it has to hit the goalie or the goalpost. If you miss the net, it doesn't reset.
Yeah, I find that the way that you're able to move the ring is a lot like the way you're able to move the ball in lacrosse. And then also obviously bringing in the shot clock piece of it makes it very similar to lacrosse. And so in that sense, I also think that kind of someone who's played lacrosse and hasn't played hockey, the way that you kind of set up in your house in lacrosse is the same way that you set up in a triangle in ringette. So in ringette, you're playing 3-on-3, offensively and defensively, with your other like 2 players from each team kind of just waiting outside of the blue line, waiting to run a pattern once the ring gets broken out. So it's very much giving that like 3-on-3. You have like the shape that you're trying to protect. In lacrosse, it was a house. Here, it's a triangle. There's a slightly bigger crease than hockey, and it follows the same kind of rules as lacrosse for the most part, that the crease is sacred and that's the goalie zone. Neither team can go in there, only the goalie. And then on top of that, you have the 2 blue lines that you're passing over. So you have to make contact with another teammate on the other side of the blue line. And that's kind of the replacement for offside.
We kind of built this association from the ground up 4 years ago. There wasn't much of a adult team as far as I know. And when I first joined, there was very few people, a lot less than there are now. So we've sort of put into it, a fair bit of effort to have it be an established team. And we've watched ourselves get better over the last 4 years. I've had the privilege of being on the team for 4 years, and there's some core people who have stayed and some people who have come and left, but we've really improved as a team. And that's commitment. That takes a certain level of desire to be there, to show up, to practice things and get better. And I think we have a really good community for that. It's quite its own community.
Yeah. When I moved out to BC, I just Googled like Victoria Ringette, and there was a website. So I emailed them and I let them know that I had coached in the past. Like, I'm willing to come out and help coach the kids. I want to play if you have a team for me. So I came out and I started playing out here, and it was, I think our first year we had like 10 rostered players, so from all levels. So we had some players who were just coming back after not playing for 20 years, and then we had some university students that had moved to Victoria but had played really high level ringette in Calgary mostly, and out in Ontario. And so we had like a really big mix, and we weren't expecting to compete. It was just gonna be like a weeknight game that were practice or just something fun for us. But then as the season went on, we kind of thought, oh, we should go to provincials. We could do it. Like, we're a decent team. So we went to provincials. We took 10 players. For context, we normally bring 15 skaters now that we have full teams, but back then we played with 10 players, so that's 2 lines, and it was a lot, but it was really cool. We did pretty well. We made semifinals that year, and then the following year I took on head coaching the team, and I thought it was going to be a similar thing, a little turnout, but we were going to just play and have fun. And Kira and I, who were coaching the team, showed up to our first practice expecting little numbers, and there were like 40 people on the ice. And the 2 of us, I think I was like 22 at the time and she was like 20 or something, and we were like, oh my gosh, like, we actually have to run tryouts. So I'm from Ontario and Kira's from Calgary, so we're in a new province. We don't really understand how the league works, and we went, okay, we have to run tryouts and we have to have a team by like 2 weeks from now. So from there, we were able to put together an A team and a B team, and as the years have gone on, we have a really solid program that's grown. At this point, we have enough players for probably 3 competitive teams and a rec team as well. So it's very much grown from that like core group of 10 players. And we also have a youth program that's grown a lot. And it's just crazy to see the program grow, especially living where we live on an island where there aren't really other teams to play. And it's an interesting sport too, because it's something you typically grow up playing. So when you're growing up in Calgary or in Ontario, you have friends who play it, you grow up playing it. But out here, everyone who plays, at least on the adult team, are people who have moved here, or the kids of people who have moved here and started to play. So it's all very new, and that's a cool thing, because on my team at least, I feel that we've gotten really close because we're just a group of people who have moved from elsewhere to Victoria, and what we have in common is we all have played this sport elsewhere. So we bring a really unique, like we all have our own style of play from where we come from, and we bring that together, and then we all have become such close friends because for most of us, when we moved here, the first thing we did was join the ringette team, and then from there, the first friends you make are your friends on the ringette team, and that's been really special.
I grew up playing soccer, basketball. I wanted to play hockey, and I was always out in the back lane playing road hockey. And so for some reason, when I asked my parents to join hockey, they put me in come try ringette, and I loved it right off the bat. So I just ended up doing that instead of hockey. My dad said he didn't like the hockey culture of like yelling from the stands a lot. And but then again, neither of them knew about ringette before I went to that come try ringette, and I think they just wanted to try it out. But a lot of, you know what's actually an interesting phenomenon? A lot of people join ringette for the sole purpose of learning to skate, just to move on to hockey, because ringette produces such skilled skaters. So we had a lot of girls who I grew up playing ringette with who transferred to hockey, and they were really good skaters and they were really successful in hockey. But one of the things I would say ringette is known for is the skating abilities. Because you have the possession of the ring on your stick, it's like very fundamental to ringette, these little movements where you're faking people out constantly. It's like this transfer of weight that honestly, I don't know if somebody who hasn't experienced that can see it as much, but I feel like all these like split-second decisions that I'm making just to sort of lean in one way to make someone think I'm going a certain way and then dip out in the last second. It's really fun to feel that in your body and know how to do that. I think about like the net hours of things that I've done in my life, just generally, and skating is got to be the one thing that I've done the most net hours. Thousands and thousands of hours. You learn a very unique style when you do that, I think. Like so much time spent on it.
Growing up in Calgary, it was like not uncommon for parents to put their sons in ringette when they were younger so that they could learn to skate better. And I think that that's really that piece, is that because you have that inherent control of the ring, you're able to move so much faster, and it's so much more about passing and skating and less about controlling the object of the game.
It's fast and it's technical, especially with you know, the lines that we have with the blue line and the ringette line and the rules that come with that. There's a bit more emphasis on like plays and being more technical, and you've got to think pretty hard while you're playing. I find when I'm playing hockey versus ringette, when I'm playing ringette, I'm thinking a lot harder. I think we all get really close because ringette is a bit of a funny sport to play, and I think just most developing sports are interesting spaces because there isn't really the prospect of, you know, I'm gonna continue playing and I'm going to go pro or go play college or you know, build a career out of this. So we're really just playing it because we like it. And I think that's kind of funny because a lot of people ask me, like, why do you play ringette? Like, you're a good athlete, why don't you just, you know, play something you could actually, you know, make some money in or go to college for? So I think just we're all kind of unique characters. We've all made that choice. And you get a lot of flack for playing ringette in some spaces. It is predominantly a women's sport, and you know, some people tend to make fun of the sport because of that, and they tend to assume that it's not a sport that's worthwhile or intense enough, or even like some people don't even believe it to be a sport. So I've gotten that a lot. I've gotten, why don't you just play hockey? I think it's because it's predominantly a women's sport. Men do play, and obviously there are people who are trans and non-binary who play, but predominantly and historically it's been a women's sport. And I just think that because of that, people just like to make fun of it, to be honest with you. So yeah, we get a lot of hate for that. And I think too, the similarity that it has to hockey also kind of brings on a bit of like, you know, why aren't you just playing hockey? Why doesn't the sport just be hockey? And when you actually play it, it's a very, like, we've got different lines, we've got very different rules. It is a completely different sport, and you don't see that sort of narrative surrounding like softball and baseball, or or I don't know, like lacrosse and hockey, or sports that are kind of similar in that sense. So like, I hate to say it, but I do think it's because it's mostly played by women, and there is that narrative surrounding women's sports that still does exist. And I think being with a group of people who we've all, like anyone I've played ringette with has had those comments made towards them, and we've all continued to play, and I think it's just like everyone really, really likes it, and everyone's very, very dedicated because they're doing it regardless. Right now we only compete in tournaments and the odd exhibition game. We could play in the league, but that would mean traveling to the mainland probably like once a week, and I don't think that's feasible for us. So it is pretty hard. When we do want to organize games, if we're doing home games, we don't have ringette lines on our ice surface, so we'll use our bingo dabbers sometimes to mark up the ice. But when you're hosting a team, you probably would be, if they're making the trip out to the island, you want it to be nice for them. We need to hire refs, which is hard because there aren't really any refs on the island. And you need a shot clock, right? And a lot of the rinks don't have shot clocks here. So the last time we hosted home games, we had to have someone in Vancouver give the team we were playing a portable shot clock, and then have them bring it over with us, and then you have to set it up, and you have to find someone who knows how to operate the shot clock. So it can be pretty tough, and a lot of teams probably don't feel like making such a long trip to come out. When we do go and play exhibition games, like we'll set up exhibition games here and there, and when we do that, we need to try to coordinate with a facility to get ice. And when you don't have a pre-existing relationship with the facility, that can be challenging. And we're very much in the process right now of building relationships with the arenas in Victoria. There aren't a lot of arenas in Victoria as opposed to other cities that are more like hockey leaning. But we're taking what we can get right now, really. And for example, if we have a tournament coming up and I want some extra ice, that's nearly impossible to come by.
Yeah, and I think that, like, I can speak to that from a really interesting perspective because I was the chair of the like Chinook Ringette League in Southern Alberta. So I ran the whole Southern Alberta Ringette League. And that was an established league where we had tons of ice, and we were like playing the game of like registration numbers are down, what ice times do we give away, because people before us had fought tooth and nail to get the ice slots, and we did not want to give them away. Versus coming here and coming to Victoria to a brand new program, the struggles that we face are completely different. Like, it's like I can't describe how different they are. And just the president of our association going to all of the community center board meetings and begging them for ice, and like begging them to consider us as like a user group for them. And I know for our group that means like taking ice times that we don't want to take, with the premise and hope that we can build a good relationship with that recreation center and then move our way up to a better ice slot. So it's a lot of like boots on the ground work, going to like the president of our association goes to board meetings, advocates for us as like a new sport in the community. And then in terms of like the players, we take ice times at 10:30 p.m. at night, just hoping that it gets us a shoe in the door with a rec center, and that'll eventually give us an earlier slot.
Yeah, I think one of the main ways a team can improve is by just doing and playing games. So if we don't have a lot of that competition, it's hard for us to keep playing ourselves. And it is beneficial to work at practices and try different plays, but to really get out there in a game and see how you do in tournaments and see how you play. Every team is different, right? So you have to see how you as a team can play against different opposition and how you react to different scenarios. It's all about the action of actually doing it. So being the only team on the island, it's hard for us to, I guess, get to the level that we know we potentially could get to if we had more teams to play.
When I was growing up, whenever people like came to ringette from hockey or came from other sports or talked about it, it was always talking about the culture. That the culture at ringette is so great and it's so inclusive and everyone's there to have fun. And that's what drew people to it. That's why people would leave hockey and come to ringette. And I think that if you never got a chance to experience that culture, you wouldn't know what you were missing. So you register your kid in another sport, they continue on, that's all you ever know. But people who had cousins or friends that were registered in ringette or got a chance to try ringette, growing up it was always talked about that the culture of ringette was so beautiful and so different from other sports, and that's why people were drawn to it.
Yeah, I think in part because ringette is such a niche sport, the people who play it are really committed to it. It's a very particular type of culture where people really, they want to be there and they really appreciate it, and you know, the way parents celebrate it too, you see in the stands. But yeah, it's kind of like a community where you know if you know. Like once you're in it, you feel that warmth. But looking from the outside, I guess some people don't know that much about it.
The culture around ringette is like very interesting, and it's like kind of, I think, like a microcosm in and of itself, because it's like, it's just a sport that doesn't go anywhere professionally, that people are just pouring time and energy and money and love and commitment into. And I think that for me, like one of the big things that makes ringette like so special is that people are just doing it for the love of the game. And I think that when you do have like, yes, we have the National Ringette League, yes, you still pay to play in it, even when you're playing at the highest level. So when you take out that aspect of like, I need to try to play professionally, I need to try to get a sports scholarship with this, like all of those kind of big pressures, and you're just playing for the love of the game, I think that's where something like really special happens. And it becomes so much about like the community and the friendships, and you're just playing because you love it. And I think that that's kind of like the special piece of niche sports, when there isn't that added pressure of really the financial benefit, whether it be a university scholarship or a professional league.
It's really cool because we're all such good friends, and then we're all such like silly, like we're so silly together, and we have a lot of fun outside of ringette, but when we are playing ringette, we're so dialed in and we're doing something together. And it's on this team, we do discuss like we have a lot of really solid plays and a lot of chemistry, and just seeing that all click and moving as a unit on the ice is really, really cool. And it's very special to do that with your best friends. Yeah. And I think too, like there's a lot of emotion involved for me and for my teammates as well. And it really unlocks like a different layer of closeness to the people that you have around you. I don't think there's a relationship that's similar, or a friendship or a relationship that I have with anyone outside of ringette that is similar to the ones that I have with my teammates, because we've been so emotional together and so intense together, and we've cried together, and that's really special.
Yeah, I like couldn't imagine living my life without a team. And I'm like 25 with like a job and like a life, and like I could not imagine living my life without like teammates, because there's just such like an unspoken like safety and comfort when you see people. And like growing up, it was like 3-4 times a week you could just yap about whatever was going on in your life, and you were, the worries of school, the worries of like your other friend groups didn't matter, because these were your teammates, and you could tell them anything and you work together towards a common goal, and that just like immediately attaches people. And now growing up, like now that I'm grown up, that's like what it is now. Like the worries of work for me, the worries of university for other people, like you have the space to talk about whatever and then just move on, because you have to go on for the next shift and come back. And so having a team just creates such like an underlying love that you just would go to war. You go to war for them on the ice, and you're willing to do it off the ice. So you always have each other's backs, even as an adult, which is not something I was expecting when I was a kid at all, to know how much this would mean to me in my adult life. And especially with us, like we see each other twice a week. We don't have games to play. We're just practicing. So we spend so much time together, and then we want to go play 2 games. That's a 7 a.m. ferry and a 7 p.m. ferry back. Like we are picking each other up. We're doing rounds at 5 a.m. and dropping people off at 9 p.m. And there's just hours spent on BC ferries just doing nothing and everything all at the same time. So I think that the distance that we have to travel brings us particularly close, But at the end of the day, I think being a team is like just something special that you'll have for your whole life.